Happy eDay, everyone. This is our 5th grade high ability math lesson for Tuesday, November 6th, which is our eDay for November. Today on our agenda we have only subtracting mixed numbers, and we're going to be able to do that with and without renaming the mixed number. So if you notice here, this is your homework, practice workbook, page 297, numbers 2 through 18. You will do the evens and you will submit your answers on Angel. There will be a separate instructions on how to submit your answers on Angel. There's no bell work for today, and be sure that you are ready to go over PW 295, which was from adding mixed numbers. Be sure you're ready to do that tomorrow morning, as well as ask any questions you have about subtracting mixed numbers. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to be on page 76 in your guided notes, so if you need to pause so that you can get your notebook out, you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and start with this first example problem. So our first example problem is subtracting a mixed number. So it looks like the important parts of my problem here talks about a black bear being 5 1/4 feet long and an Alaskan brown bear being 7 1/2 feet long. I want to know how much longer is an Alaskan brown bear than a black bear. So to find the answer to this problem, I'm going to take 7 1/2. Dang it. Sorry, computer difficulties here. I'm going to take 7 1/2 and subtract 5 1/4. So first thing I need to do, just like any other time we've been adding and subtracting, we're going to have to find our least common denominator. Least common denominator is going to be 4. So I'm going to write 1/2. To get to 4, I've got to multiply my denominator by 2. So I've got to do the same thing to my numerator. So I'm going to end up with 2/4. Notice that I rewrote my 7 over here. And since 4 was my common denominator, I didn't have to do anything to 5 1/4. Now I just simply subtract my fractions, so that's going to end up being 1/4, and 7 minus 5 is 2. So my final answer is the Alaskan brown bear is 2 1/4 feet longer than the black bear. Alright. So that's just subtracting a mixed number. Second example is we might have to rename our whole number. So notice in this problem I only have the number 9, a whole number 9 minus 1 2/3, which is a mixed number. So what I'm going to have to do here, since I don't have a fraction to subtract from 2/3, I'm going to rename 9 to be 8 3/3. So where did I get the denominator 3 from? I got 3 because my denominator down here is 3, so I'm going to make that denominator 3 as well. So now all I have to do is simply subtract 3 minus 2, so I'm subtracting my numerators here. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Denominator stays the same with 3. 8, now I subtract my whole numbers. 8 minus 1 is 7. So my final answer is 7 1/3. This is renaming a whole number. Took my whole number, made it 1 less, made my fraction, my denominator was the denominator to the other number in my subtraction problem. Alright, next kind of problem that we might have is going to be renaming a mixed number. Okay, so before we were renaming, in our last problem we renamed a whole number. Now we're going to rename a mixed number. So first step, I don't like the way that your book did it, so we're going to do this off to the bottom right hand side of your example, and we're going to do it a different way, and we're going to follow these steps right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite my problem using least common denominator, because that's what we've been doing. So I'm going to change 2 3/10 into my least common denominator here is going to be 20. So I'm going to change this into 2 and something 20ths. I multiplied 10 by 2 to get to 20, so 3 times 2 is 6. I'm going to change 3/4 to be 15 20ths, because I multiplied by 5, so I have to multiply my numerator by 5, so I get 15 20ths. Now, I'm subtracting, so what's my problem here? Well, my problem is I can't take 6 minus 15. That gives me a negative number. I don't want to do that. So here is the part where we're going to rename our mixed number. So I'm going to change 2 and 6 20ths into a different number. I'm going to rename that to be 1. So my whole number becomes 1 less. Then I'm going to make 6 20ths into an improper fraction. So I'm going to make 6 20ths into 26 20ths. Down here I don't have to change anything, so I'm just subtracting 15 20ths. Now what this has allowed me to do is now I can take 26 minus 15. So 26 minus 15 is 11. Denominator stays the same. 1 minus 0 is 1. So I end up with 1 and 11 20ths. So 1 and 11 20ths is my final answer. It is in simplest form. So notice, the steps that we followed was, I'm just going to change the problem into finding my least common denominator. That's the first thing I do. Then I'm going to rename my mixed number. So I find that 6 minus 15, I can't do that. So I need to rename 6 20ths into 1 and 26 20ths. I don't do anything down here. So now I can subtract. I can do 26 minus 15, gives me 11 20ths. Final answer, 1 and 11 20ths. All right, let's take a look at, let's do a few quick check problems here. So this little problem here, keyword is difference. Difference tells me I'm going to be doing a subtraction problem. So I'm going to be taking 14 and 13/16, and I'm going to subtract 7 and 5/8. First step I need to do is find a common denominator. 16 is going to be my common denominator, so I don't need to do anything different to 14 and 13/16. I'm going to change 7 and 5/8 into 7, and I multiply 8 by 2. So I'm going to multiply my numerator by 2. Oops, not by 10, by 2, Mrs. Hook. So then I'm going to end up with 10. Final answer, I'm going to subtract my whole number, so I'm going to have 7. And then 13 minus 10 is 3 over 16. That is in simplest form, so that's my final answer. If I end up with a mixed number that's not in simplest form, remember you always have to simplify that. Alright, here's a problem that's going to be renaming a whole number. So my original problem is 10 minus 4 and 1/4. I'm going to rename 10 to be 9 and 4/4. Remember, I get the 4. My denominator down here is 4, so I'm going to make this denominator up here 4 as well, because then I have my common denominators all set up. I don't have to change anything with 4 and 1/4. I am still subtracting. So 4 minus 1 is 3. It's going to give me 3/4, and 5 and 3/4 is going to be my answer there. Here's another problem right here that you can do by yourself. So if you hit pause, do 5 minus 3 and 2/3, hit pause, and then I'll show the answer here and you can check your work. Alright, answer to 5 minus 3 2/3 is going to be, I'm going to change 5, I'm going to rename that to be 4 3/3 minus 3 2/3. Gives me a final answer of 1 1/3. So if you need to hit pause to double check your work there, you can do that. Alright, I think this is going to be our last example problem here. I've got a huge picture frame. I've never seen a picture frame this wide. It's 1 3/4 feet wide and 3 5/6 feet long. I want to know how much longer is the frame than it is wide. So if it's 3 5/6 long, I'm going to subtract 1 3/4 from that. Need to find my common denominator. Common denominator is going to be 24, so I'm going to rewrite my whole numbers. I'm going to multiply 6 by 4, so I have to multiply 5 by 4. I'm going to multiply 4 by 6 to get to 24, so 3 times 6 is 18. 20 minus, now I do my numerators. 20 minus 18 is 2. Denominator stays the same. Subtract my whole numbers. I have 2 and 2 24ths. For my divisibility rules, I know that 2 24ths is not in its simplest form, so obviously 2 has to be my greatest common factor, so I'm going to divide by 2 to my numerator and denominator. So I'm going to end up with 2 and 1/12 feet as my final answer here. I wanted to show you one more additional example problem with renaming a mixed number. So this is actually number 5 from your homework assignment tonight, which again is PW 297. So number 5 has 8 1/6 minus 3 2/5. Remember, my first step was to rewrite with the least common denominator. So I found my least common denominator of 30. That's why I have 8 5/30 and 3 12/30. Remember, I can't do 5 minus 12. That gives me a negative number, not acceptable. So I'm going to rename 8 5/30 into 7 35/30. I make this an improper fraction. Now I can do 35 minus 12 to get 23/30. Subtract my whole numbers, and I get 4. So this is the end of our lesson for our November the 6th eDay, which is lesson 5.5, subtracting mixed numbers. And again, our homework is PW 297, numbers 2 through 18, and you will submit all of your answers on Angel.